007 First Light wasn't among my most anticipated titles for 2026, even despite how I've been a James Bond fan since childhood and how the title is being created by the talented developers over at IO Interactive, a studio respected for its work on the Hitman series, aka the Bald Man Assassination Simulator. See, the game's debut trailer from a couple of months ago mustered minimal excitement within me. If anything, it didn't register in my gaming loins, mainly because the James Bond franchise has been struggling with relevancy and overall quality as of late, and that's even before the recent news where Amazon has creative control of the film series now. But hey, I guess we know who's gonna play Blofeld. There's the whole young James Bond angle, which has already been done before. I mean, that was the entire appeal of Casino Royale, and the trailer didn't showcase anything too groundbreaking or exciting. Yet with that said, I be the fool here. Please take me seriously, because my tune has changed. In fact, my overall interest in 007 First Light has launched skyward like a Viagra'd cock on rocket skates. And the title's recent gameplay demonstration was the reason for this drastic opinion change. During a state of play focused on 007 First Light, IO Interactive demonstrated a 20+ minute slice of gameplay showcasing the vibe that the developer is striving for. That vibe being a fusion of Hitman and Uncharted. As for Hitman, I have minimal experience with that franchise, though I do desire to play some entries in the series at some point, so please tell me in the comments what Hitman game I should start with. But even I know about the Hitman series' core design elements, because it's a stealth action game with open level design where you infiltrate an area and eventually assassinate a target, and the player has multiple avenues to achieve that murderous goal. And then in terms of Uncharted, those games are swashbuckling action-adventure titles akin to a playable summer blockbuster. Ones that are narrative-driven and overall linear, but are impeccably designed around inventive and action-packed fistfights, shootouts, puzzles, level traversal, and set pieces. And this is all exciting, even though there isn't a lot of room for the player to engage with these games in their own unique way, because it's linear. But still, even with that said, the Uncharted series gameplay is focused and honed, thus creating a thrilling gameplay experience. Now, we can't judge a complete game from just a sliver of gameplay, because if that was possible, please check out my review on Grand Theft Auto 6. But anyway, the point, judging by the gameplay presented, 007 First Light fuses the interactive uniqueness present in both the Hitman and the Uncharted franchises. Channeling Hitman, the gameplay presented our young James Bond infiltrating a private event and deploying some form of subterfuge to gain access to said event. Later on in the trailer, it's revealed that Bond can approach stealth in a variety of ways by distracting enemies with gadgetry, performing stealth takedowns, and even utilizing Bond's charisma as he pretends to be an employee, acting like he belongs there, and that being an evil henchman comes with an impressive benefits package. If anything, 007 First Light's stealth action gameplay has a shit ton of versatility. And then in terms of reflecting the Uncharted games, the vertical gameplay slice advertised a tantalizing action set piece, and one featuring a car chase, a firefight with third-person cover-based shooter mechanics, and a brawl on a plane in mid-flight, which reflects the linear yet curated for quality type of experience that the Uncharted series embodies. Regardless of inspiration though, both of these gameplay styles seem to work because they reflect the spirit of James Bond as a series. Smoothly accessing black tie events with grace and confidence, collecting intel by eavesdropping on conversations, a gadget watch, vehicular mayhem, throwing haymakers while atop a moving airliner, and causing mayhem by cutting loose with some epic gunplay, including some craftiness where, when out of ammo, Bond chucks his gun as if it were him viewing the prospect of a long-term romantic commitment. Disgusting. Which is all just very James Bond. And while nothing shown in the gameplay snippet was revolutionary, it all appeared well executed. For example, the car chase was reminiscent of the one in Uncharted 4, and a lot of the third-person shooter action sequences featured Bond peppering bullets at everyone and their beloved dumpster demon's favorite red explosive barrel pastiche. So it's not exactly new. But the game does, however, appear refined. The car chase seemed exciting, and the resulting explosions from shooting the red barrels were massive with impressive environmental destruction that would make any oil CEO cream his pantaloons. In other words, 007 First Light looks like a literal blast. The minimal roster of characters and the actors representing them are pretty interesting so far. See, only 6 core characters were introduced in the trailer, but alongside James Bond, a femme fatale, and a potential ally, we also got our first looks at franchise staples such as M, Q, and Moneypenny, characters that authenticate 007 First Light as a legitimate James Bond adventure. And while the actors themselves aren't big names, that's honestly okay because it allowed IO Interactive to focus on who is best for the part, which I immensely respect. As you can tell, I found this little taste of 007 First Light's gameplay to be very satisfactory. Though with that said, this game does need a little more polish. The frame rate was choppy in some parts, the overuse of motion blur made me believe that Bond drank too many vodka martinis, and some of the audio needs to be mixed better, seeing as I don't need to hear how loud Bond is breathing during a harrowing action sequence. My mouth breathing is loud enough for the both of us, god damn it, meaning that there are a few things that IO Interactive needs to adjust. However, with that said, 007 First Light undeniably looks like a blast and stays true to both IO Interactive's gameplay strengths, all while being an enjoyable James Bond escapade, and one that I'm very excited for at that. I ultimately hope that 007 First Light lives up to its promise.